الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So today inshallah ta'ala will be our first course of the Talib al-Ilm program in English, and we're going to be speaking generally about what we're going to be doing inshallah in this program, about the importance of studying knowledge, about the way it has to be studied, and some information related to that. We will also be taking questions and commentaries at the end بإذن عز وجل. So the first thing we need to know, inshallah, بإذن عز وجل, is that we will be doing, or we will try to do at least a complete program. So it will be including Aqidah, it will be including fiqh, hadith, it will be including seerah, other sciences too, inshallah ta'ala. It will be including, inshallah, something global to give a global understanding and a complete understanding to the student of knowledge بإذن عز وجل. And the first thing we need to know is that studying knowledge is an obligation. The Prophet ﷺ said, طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. Studying knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. And we have parts of knowledge that are an obligation, an individual obligation to study, just like we have some parts of it, some aspects of it, that will be a community obligation to study. For example, the Aqidah, the belief of the individual. The belief, the Aqidah, is an obligation, individual obligation to learn for every single Muslim. Each one of us needs to learn it. Each one of us needs to know it. Someone who doesn't know their Aqidah will not be able, will not know what to respond to the angels when they will ask him the 3 questions in the grave. Someone who doesn't know Aqidah means they don't know their Lord. Someone who doesn't know the Aqidah, the belief, means they don't know what was revealed to Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. One who doesn't know Aqidah doesn't know what to believe in Allah and could fall in some wrong beliefs. And the wrong beliefs are of 2 types. We have some wrong beliefs that may take one out of the fold of Islam, making him a disbeliever, making him a kafir. And we have other wrong beliefs that may take one out of the fold of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, making him an innovator. And in each case, no one wants to be neither a disbeliever or an innovator. We all want to be believers upon the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, upon the right path, which is why each one of us needs to learn and know the Aqidah. And each knowledge that we are related to daily, or we are related to in a way or another, becomes obligatory for us to learn. What do we mean by that? For example, wudu, ablution or purification. Each one of us needs to do wudu before every prayer, or at least once a day, or at least sometimes twice a day. So we need to do wudu daily. Each Muslim needs to do that daily, which means each Muslim needs to learn the correct way to do wudu, or else he might be doing mistakes in his wudu. And mistakes in the wudu equals the wudu being invalid, and the wudu being invalid equals the prayer being invalid. And the prayer, of course, being invalid and not accepted, or one who leaves prayer, he becomes a kafir, he becomes a disbeliever. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect us all. So we need to learn the fiqh of wudu, the jurisprudence of wudu, because we need to do it daily. Same thing for the prayer. We have 5 daily obligatory prayers. So we need to learn how they need to be done, how we have to do them, what's to be done in them, what can nullify them for us not to nullify our prayers, etc. And also we have the example of zakat. We have to give zakat twice a year. We have zakat al-fitr and we have the other one. So we need to learn the fiqh of these 2 zakats to give them in the right way, to not be missing something, as the zakat is a pillar from the 5 pillars of Islam. Same thing for the hajj. Anyone who's going to do hajj needs to learn the fiqh of hajj. So if he's not going to do it, of course, or he's going to do it in some years, for example, he doesn't need to learn it now, but he will need to learn it, and it will become an obligation, an individual obligation upon that person, upon that individual, the moment he will be going to accomplish that hajj. So this is for the individual obligations. We call them in Arabic fardu ayn, furud al-a'yan, in plural, furud al-a'yan. And we have also furud al-kifaya, the obligations that are obligatory upon the community. What we mean by that is, if a group of the community if a group of the community, a number that's actually like, a decent number, a sufficient number, does and accomplishes that obligation, then the obligation is going to fall upon the rest of the ummah, and they will not need to be doing it. An example: the Prophet ﷺ said that praying upon the deceased Muslim, upon the Muslim who is dead, is an obligation upon Muslims. So now, for example, if there is a Muslim who dies in Montreal, we're going to need to have at least a little decent group of believers, a decent group of Muslims, accomplishing the prayer of janazah upon him. If these people don't accomplish it, and if no one does it, then all the Muslims who are capable of accomplishing the janazah on this person and who didn't do it will be deemed as sinful. They will be all deemed as sinful. And if we have a sufficient decent group doing it on that person, then it will not be obligatory anymore on the other Muslims, on the rest of the Muslims. So this is the difference between furud al-a'yan, the individual obligations, and furud al-kifaya, the community obligations. As we said, there is some parts of knowledge that are fardu ayn, that are individually obligatory to learn for every single individual Muslim. And we have some other aspects and parts of the knowledge, of the Islamic knowledge, that are a community obligation. Like what, for example? Like, for example, the science of hadith. Like going deeply in the science of hadith and learning, for example, the science of the narrators. Who's this person who narrates this hadith? What's his judgment? Is he someone trustworthy or not, etc.? This is something that's a community obligation. It's not an individual obligation. Learning, for example, the differences between all the scholars in fiqh, in jurisprudence, about prayer, for example, and going deep into that, this is also not an individual obligation. Rather, it is a community obligation. It's a fard kifaya. It's a fard kifaya. If we have enough people doing it, then the rest of the Muslims don't need to do it anymore. If no one is doing it, then the ones who could do it, who have the ability to do it, will be sinful. Same thing for the science of Arabic. Learning the science of Arabic very deeply, very deeply, and learning, for example, its toughest and hardest sciences, because under the science of Arabic there's also other sciences. Then in this case, if there's enough people learning it, it's not an obligation upon the rest of the Muslims. If no one decides to learn it, then all the ones who have the ability to are sinful for not learning it once again. So this is the difference between fardu ayn, individual obligation, and fardu kifaya, community obligation. We have to know also that amongst the best of deeds to do, other than the obligatory acts, we have the studying of knowledge. We have talabul ilm. The fact that we study knowledge is one of the best supererogatory actions to do as a Muslim. In the hadith reported by the Prophet ﷺ, where Allah said, so it's a hadith Qudsi, Allah said that there is no more beloved actions to him than what he made as obligatory. So from this hadith we take that the best of actions are the ones made obligatory. The 5 obligatory prayers, the obligatory hajj, etc. And Allah said in the rest of the hadith that one does not cease to get closer to Allah by doing the nawafil, by doing the acts that are not obligatory, that are rather recommended, until Allah loves him, until Allah loves such a person. And one of the best deeds to do as a person to have the love of Allah, to gain the love of Allah, to get closer to Allah, so other than the obligatory acts once again, is the studying of knowledge. Until the scholars differed, subhanallah, the scholars differed upon something very special to differ upon. So they said, is the pen of the scholar better, or is the blood of the shaheed, of the mujahid, better? Which one is better? So Ibn al-Qayyim spoke about that in a lot of pages. He disputed that, he spoke about it, and the conclusion that he came out with is the one who is better is the scholar who is a mujahid. The one who is better is the scholar who is also a mujahid. So the one who combined between both. So in reality, a lot of scholars dispute that. Some say it's the scholar who's better, some say it's the mujahid who's better. Once again, as Ibn al-Qayyim said, we should aim for the best, and we should aim for the maximum as Muslims. Another thing, the scholars mentioned that the first reason we learn knowledge, the first reason that pushes us to learn knowledge after knowing that it's obligatory upon us is to be getting out from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. To get out from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. Because in reality, ignorance is really a darkness. And ignorance is comparable to a room where there is no light. And you don't know where you are in that room, you don't know where's the door, you don't know how to reach that door. So you keep, subhanAllah, walking and you keep hitting the walls, you keep falling because of that darkness. This is the example of the one who doesn't have knowledge. And the example of the one who has the knowledge is the example of someone who's in a room or who is outside with the brightness of the sun, who can see everything that's near him. He can see the dangers to avoid them. He can see the good things to reach them. This is the example of the one who has the knowledge of the religion. He will be avoiding everything bad for his religion. He will be reaching everything good for his religion. He will know what's the best to do for his religion, etc. And an example was quoted by Ibn al-Jawzi rahmatullahi alayh, saying that, so I'm going to give you approximately what he said. I forgot exactly what he said, so I'm going to give it like approximately. So he said, subhanallah, that the person who's the most beloved to shaitan is the one who doesn't have a light to walk with, because the shaitan can do whatever he wants with that person. So what is that light? That light is the light of knowledge. As long as you do not have that light, shaitan can play with you however he wants. And he can whisper to you whatever he wants. And he's going to find you believing him and following him. And there is a hadith that explains this to us very clearly. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith that one alim, one scholar, one person of knowledge is more damaging to the shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. One scholar is more damaging to the shaitan than 1,000 worshippers. Why? Because the scholar knows the plot of shaitan. The scholar is gonna reject the plot of shaitan. The scholar is gonna be harming the shaitan more than the shaitan harms him. The person of knowledge is gonna be countering the plans of shaitan when he's gonna be going and whispering deviances for people. The scholar and the people of knowledge will be going around and propagating the good, calling people to the good, calling people to the deen, calling people to knowledge, calling people to the sunnah, which will counter the plan of shaitan who's calling them to hellfire, and which will make his plan crumble in reality. And the worshipper, or the 1,000 worshippers, they don't reach the shaitan. Why? Because in reality, their good does not reach other people. Their good doesn't counter the plan of shaitan. And many worshippers fall in reality to the plots of shaitan if they do not have the knowledge to counter that, if they do not have the knowledge to save themselves from that. Another point, it was said that al-Bukhari rahimahullah said, it's reported that al-Bukhari rahimahullah said, he said, al-Rabbaniyu, he said, the saint person, the wali of Allah, the person who's close to Allah, the person who's an ally of Allah. So the saint person, al-Rabbani in Arabic, is the one who teaches صغار العلم قبل كباره. It's the one who teaches the small aspects of knowledge before its big aspects. It's the one who teaches the easy knowledge and the beginning of the knowledge before teaching the hardest parts of the knowledge and before teaching advanced level of knowledge. What do we mean by that, and what do we take from that? We take from that in our study of the Islamic knowledge, we have to go step by step. We don't go from step 1 to step 10. Rather, we go from step 1 to 2, and from 2 to 3, and from 3 to 4. We do not jump steps. We do not burn steps like they say. In reality, the one who's going to jump the steps, he's going to be missing a lot of important understanding and of important things, informations, important knowledge that will make him have misunderstandings afterwards and will make him have a weak knowledge afterwards. We see a lot of people sometimes, they just started studying knowledge and they already start refuting, criticizing everyone right and left. Anyone they see, they tell you he's deviant, he's misguided, he's an innovator. Sometimes they tell you he's a kafir. Sometimes you speak to these people, subhanallah. One of these people, I spoke to him and he was telling me everyone is a kafir. He told me, you guys are also kuffar, all of you are kuffar. This sheikh is a kafir, you guys know nothing, and this and that. And when I was speaking to him, so I told him, do you even speak Arabic? Do you even read Arabic? He doesn't even know how to read Arabic. He doesn't even study knowledge with a sheikh. He never ever finished a book of Aqidah by himself or with a sheikh. Never finished in his life a book of Aqidah. Yet he is there making the takfir of everyone, speaking against everyone, refuting everyone. So this is something that can only be done after reaching some high levels in knowledge. And the people who reach high levels in knowledge, they will refute the one who deserve to be refuted only. They won't be here refuting everyone. The example of these people we just gave, the ones who do not have knowledge and yet they give themselves the permission to speak against everyone due to their ignorance, they will find themselves, subhanallah, making takfir of the best of people. Sometimes making takfir of scholars, sometimes making takfir of du'at, of the best of du'at that we have as Muslims. One of them was making takfir, for example, of Dhakir Naik and making takfir of his sheikh. All of this because of their ignorance and them not knowing anything about the deen. And that's why Al-Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi is saying that the saint, the person who's from the closest to Allah, is the one who teaches people the beginner levels of knowledge, and then he will go with them until they reach the advanced level of knowledge. There is no such thing there's no such thing as someone who's supposed to be in primary school who finds himself all of a sudden in university, for example, or in high school. That doesn't exist. He will need to go step by step until he reaches that high level he wishes to reach. And if we take someone from primary school to university, then in reality he will not understand anything, he will not learn anything, and it's going to harm him more than it will benefit him. Another thing is that we take the knowledge from its people, and this is very important. We take the knowledge from its people, meaning we do not take knowledge from TikTok, we do not take knowledge from Instagram, we do not take knowledge from Abu Fulan who's taking pictures of himself all the time with books, or Fulan who's taking herself with pictures with books on Instagram all the time, trying to show us that, look, I study knowledge. There's some people who studied 20, 30 years of knowledge and no one knows it. They say this to no one. They want to keep it as a deed between them and Allah Azza wa Jal out of sincerity. There is some people who excel in knowledge, who are scholars, yet they are extremely humble, and you will never see them take a picture or claim they are students of knowledge or call themselves on Instagram or YouTube the student of knowledge or this or the expert of this or that. So we need to take the knowledge from its people. And the people of knowledge have qualities. The people of knowledge, they are humble. The people of knowledge, they don't go show themselves. The people of knowledge, they are not immature. The people of knowledge, you will see them, you will see the impact of the knowledge in them, in the way they speak, in the way they walk, in their modesty, in what they say, in their behavior. So we take the knowledge from its people who have its characteristics, and we take also the knowledge from its people who have this knowledge, who studied this knowledge, not from anyone you find. As I said to you, the example I said to you, and it's only one example. I could tell you 10 more or 20 more or 30 more. Many, many people claiming to have studied knowledge who didn't even finish one book of knowledge in their life. And they go on internet and they speak and they give their opinions, and they speak about this guy and that guy, and they say this is halal and this is haram, while knowing nothing of the religion of Allah. So this is a calamity that we reached. Wallahi, it's a calamity that we're in because of these social medias, and because today everyone has the right somehow to have a tongue and to speak and to film themselves and to give their opinions. So these people, we do not take knowledge from them. We do not take knowledge from anyone who's not from the people of knowledge. Rather, the knowledge has to be taken from its people. The people who studied with the scholars, or the people who are scholars themselves, the people who have the certificates to prove the knowledge they studied, the people who have the ijazat from the scholars that we have nowadays that are still alive. So we don't just take it from anyone and from any person who pretends having it. Another point also we need to know is that someone who does da'wah, a da'i, isn't necessarily someone of knowledge, a person of knowledge. You can be doing da'wah, calling people to Allah, for example, respecting your limits, not crossing your limits, the limits of what you do not know, and at the same time, you admit that you are not a student of knowledge and you do not speak of knowledge. So we have to make the difference in our head that the da'i, the one who does da'wah, is one thing, and the scholar and student of knowledge is completely another thing. They are not to be mixed, and we do not go ask questions to a da'i, for example, or learn the deen from them. Rather, the deen is to be taken from the scholars, the ulama, and the tullab ilm, and the students of knowledge. Until now, is there any questions or it's understandable? Anyone has a question for now? Send the question in the group, inshallah. It's going to be easier for me to respond. So we continue, inshallah. Another point, another important point to keep in mind. Knowledge is from the best of actions, as we spoke about it, but it can be also from the greatest of calamities that can be touching someone. So, an important point to keep in mind is that in Sahih Muslim, it was reported by the Prophet ﷺ that the first three people that will be thrown in hellfire and the fire will be ignited by them, by these first three people, amongst them there was a scholar. Allah Azza wa Jal will be asking him, why did you learn and why did you teach knowledge? He will respond saying, I did it for you, O Allah. Allah will respond saying to him, you lied, you didn't do it for me. You done it so that people could say that such and such is knowledgeable. And they did say it, so you will have nothing from me. In reality, this knowledge that we have, if it is used in the good manner, if it is used sincerely, if it is learned and taught sincerely for Allah Azza wa Jal, then it can be from the biggest causes, making someone reach the highest levels of paradise. In this dunya, it will be benefiting him, and in the akhirah, it will be benefiting him also. In the same way, this same knowledge can be from the biggest calamities in this dunya and in the akhirah for someone. For the one who uses this knowledge to be showing off to people, for the one who uses this knowledge to make an Instagram account and say, Talibu ilm, look at me guys, I study knowledge, I'm better than you. For the person who uses this knowledge to gain money, for the person who uses this knowledge for people to be speaking about him, for people to call him sheikh, for people to call him this and that, may Allah Azza wa Jal preserve us of all of that. Our goal and only goal from the study of this knowledge should be pleasing to Allah. It should be pleasing to Allah only and no one else. And we should be using this knowledge to reach Allah only and no one else. And we should study this knowledge not giving any importance to any other thing other than Allah Azza wa Jal. So we study this knowledge for the pleasure of Allah, for the face of Allah Azza wa Jal. We propagate it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we do not give any importance to anything other than Allah Azza wa Jal. And as Umar radiallahu anhu said, a very nice saying of his radiallahu anhu, a man came to him and told him that in such battle there was a lot of martyrs. He told him, but we do not know them. A lot of shuhada that we do not know. Umar radiallahu anhu started crying and said, we do not know them, but Allah knows them. Meaning that if Allah knows you and Allah sees your actions and your study of knowledge, then this is what should be important for you. Even if everyone is against you, even if everyone insults you, for example, even if no one likes you, for example, then you do not care about that. You care about what Allah wants, you care about how Allah views you, you care about your status that you have with Allah Azza wa Jal, and you care about nothing else other than that. Another point is that sometimes we might find hardship studying knowledge. This might happen especially in the beginning. We might be hearing some stuff we're not understanding. We might be hearing things that we find hard to understand. We might have some whispers of shaitan, and this happens a lot. We might have some whispers of shaitan. He will be coming to us and telling us, you will never be able to understand this. It's too hard for you. You're not intelligent as you think. You're not intelligent and smart enough to understand these things. All this in reality is a lie. All this in reality is a lie. And even let's say it was true. Let's say it was true for the sake of argument. Let's say someone will never be able to learn knowledge. I'm going to give you a story that will give you an explanation about this. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah was doing a course, and he saw a man just sitting there and listening without taking any notes. He said to the man, "Where is your book? Where is your notebook? Why don't you take notes?" The man said, "I don't have any." Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah said to him, "Then why did you come? What are you doing here?" The man said to the Shaykh, he said to him, "We came because I heard the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the ones who sit in a gathering of science." Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen started crying and he said, "I wanted to teach him a lesson and he ended up teaching me the lesson." Subhanallah. So even if someone will never benefit of the knowledge, it is enough benefiting for him that he benefits from the gatherings of knowledge. It's enough beneficial for him that he sits down in a class of knowledge where we're saying Allah said, the Prophet ﷺ said, and he will be having, subhanallah, so many rewards and good deeds, and he will feel so much change in his faith and in his religion, and this will be more than enough for such a person, even if, let's say, he doesn't understand. But we must know something. It is that there is no one who will never understand knowledge. There is no one who will never get knowledge and understand it if he forces himself to. I'm going to give you an example. There was a story from the time of the Salaf of a man. This man, he assisted the class of knowledge. He was sitting down and he found it extremely hard. He was sitting down, not understanding a single word of what was being said. So he got up and left. He said, "This is not for me, this is for other people. I'm going to go do something else that I can do." When he was walking, he was going to cross a river and he was looking at the river and he saw, subhanallah, the rocks under the river. And he saw one of the rocks and the water would go like through that rock, in the middle of that rock, and because of the impact of the water, like after like some years, the water started like digging a road, let's say a road in the rock. So he was looking at that and he said, "Subhanallah," he said, "Look at this rock and look at how hard it is, and look at this water, and how we cannot even compare, how like we cannot even compare it to the rock. How did this water be able to do this to this rock, which is extremely hard?" He said, "If the water was able to do this to the rock, then inshallah ta'ala knowledge is going to be able to do that to my head, and knowledge is going to end up entering in my head, and knowledge entering in my head is way easier than the water doing this to the rock that's in front of me." So he came back and he kept studying and forcing himself until he became one of the scholars of hadith that were known at that time. So this is something to keep in mind. We shouldn't like fall to the wasawis, to the insufflations, or I don't know how you call them in English, to the wasawis of shaitan, to the whispers of shaitan. So we shouldn't fall to them. Rather, we should be firm. We should continue seeking knowledge even if we find it hard. And we should know, inshallah ta'ala, that with time it's going to become more and more easy. So everything starts as hard. Like, for example, if someone wants to pray, for example, 2 rak'at, he's going to get up, he's going to start praying, he's going to find it hard in the beginning. Then when the time passes, when he reaches the second rak'ah, it becomes way and way easier. And sometimes he doesn't want to even finish the prayer after that, when he starts feeling like how good the prayer feels. Same thing with knowledge. With time, inshallah, it's going to become easier and easier. And one is going to start loving knowledge and is going to start like giving everything to that knowledge and giving all their time to the study of knowledge. Another point that we're going to take from a poem that Shafi'i said. So Shafi'i said, or Shafi'i, in reality, Shafi'i was said about him that when he would be memorizing the Quran, he would have to memorize a page and hide the next page, and hide the next page with his hand. Because if he would be looking at both pages, he's going to memorize both of them and it's going to mix him up in his head, because he had such a great memorization. So Shafi'i, he was memorizing the Quran and he started noticing that his memorization became weak and he didn't understand why. He was wondering why. So he went to see his sheikh that's called Waki' rahmatullahi alayh, one of the big shuyukh of hadith of the Salaf. Shafi'i went to see him and told him what happened. He told him, "What do you think?" So Waki' or Shafi'i wrote a poem after that saying, "شكوت إلى وكيع سوء حفظي." He said, "I complained to Waki' my bad memorization. فأرشدني إلى ترك المعاصي." Then he told me, he advised me, he guided me to leaving off sins, to leave sins and not commit them anymore. وأخبرني أن العلم نور, and he told me that knowledge is a nur, it's a light. ونور الله لا يهدى لعاصي, and the light of Allah is never gifted to a sinner. The light of Allah is not to be gifted to a sinner. So what do we take from this? We take from this that the nur of knowledge can be extinguished if someone starts committing sins. If Allah gives you the nur of knowledge, then you must preserve it. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, if Allah loves someone, then يفقهه في الدين. If Allah wants good for someone, He will give him the knowledge of religion. And if Allah wants good for you, then you must preserve that status you have with Him. And you must never, ever break that status because of sins you commit, because of desires you have, because there is never something that's going to be higher and better than the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jal, than the nur that Allah grants to one of us. So this is a very important thing we take from here. The less you commit sins, the easier you're going to find it to study knowledge and understand. And the more you commit sins, the more وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, you're going to find yourself not being firm in knowledge and sometimes leaving off knowledge completely. Another poem of Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi, and we're going to finish with that. He said, أخي لن تنال العلم إلا بستة. He said, my brother, you will never achieve knowledge except with 6 things, except if you achieve these 6 things. He said, سأنبيك عن مجموعها ببياني. I will clarify it to you. Then he said, ذكاء, first of all, smartness. Second of all, وحرص, and desire to study knowledge. Third of all, واجتهاد, an effort, do an effort to study that knowledge. Fourth of all, bulghatun, sustenance, meaning you have your own money, you have your own sustenance, you do not depend on anyone. Because the one who has to always be working and doesn't have sustenance, that person will not have time for knowledge. And the one who depends on someone, for example, some used to depend on the sultan, on the ruler would give them their money while they will be studying knowledge and everything. In reality, how can you criticize the bad that the ruler might be doing if you are taking money from him? Some what they used to do in some Islamic countries, like in a village, the villagers would be gathering money and giving it each month to the imam of the mosque. So the imam of the mosque, if the people are doing bad, how can he criticize it if they always give him his money? If they are the reason, after Allah Azza wa Jal, that he has to eat and to feed his children, for example. So having al-bulgha, having the sustenance, having your own money makes you free and gives you the ability to say whatever has to be said for the sake of Allah. Then he said, number 5, he said, وَصُحْبَةُ أُسْتَاذٍ, and the companionship of a ustad, companionship of a scholar, for example, always being with him, asking him questions, taking knowledge from him, taking advice from him. And the last one, وَطُولُ زَمَانِ, and the last one, and a long period of time, because knowledge doesn't come after 1 day or 2, and whatever comes very fast is going to go out very fast. So knowledge needs a long period of time. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when they asked him, when will you be taking some rest, he was seen very old, keeping like going around and studying knowledge and teaching and everything. He said, مَعَ الْمِحْبَرَ إِلَى الْمَقْبَرَ. He said, I will be with the pen until I reach the grave, until I enter the grave. Meaning there is no rest of knowledge until you die and until you meet Allah Azza wa Jal. And we finish with this, inshallah ta'ala. Is there any questions, any commentaries? For the books that we'll be studying, we will speak about it, inshallah ta'ala. So before starting any book, we're going to announce it. And we're going to be also speaking about that book, what it is, what it's about, etc. So we're probably going to be doing a book. The next book we're going to do in next course, it's probably going to be Usul al-Sunnah of al-Humaydi. So the fundamentals of Sunnah of al-Humaydi. Al-Humaydi, which is one of the scholars of Hadith, one of the scholars of the Salaf, one of the biggest ones. So we're going to be doing one of his books of Aqidah to take directly the Aqidah of the Salaf. And then we're going to pass to other books, inshallah. Any questions, any commentary? We'll finish here, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.